It's very rare that I do these long videos. Basically because nobody watches my videos, so and it impacts the long form ones a lot worse. And also just from the standpoint of if nobody's going to watch them, I'd rather just do a quick thing and just talk about a particular subject. Doing a long video doesn't really lend itself to that because people expect no editing and shit on shorts to a certain degree. I mean, there are obviously people that do in companies that do highly processed and produced shorts, but for the most part, you know, if you're not going to do any editing or no scripting or anything, you're just going to babble, it's probably better to do it on a short. And for that reason, oh my god, I almost just choked on my cough drop. Great video so far. Yikes. So yeah, as far as me not really putting any effort into this, and right now, like, just lost my train of thought because I was taking a turn, that kind of shit, it doesn't really lend itself to long form videos, so I don't do them, bottom line. But occasionally, I'll just do them just for the hell of it, just to basically, like, document my life, maybe for my kids later or whatever. And sometimes I'll have something I just want to babble about for a long time. And in this case, it is the show Alone and how it's making me wish I was younger. So, obviously, as you get older, it sucks, you know? It's better to be young than old. But you try not to think about it too much, you know? You just go forward and do what you got to do because there's nothing you can do about it. But every once in a while, there's a particular thing that will make you say, man, I really wish I was younger, because this Alone show, it frustrates me, basically. Well, number one, it frustrates me how easily some people quit. But then it leads me to think, like, I consider myself a gritty person. I came from a really poor background. I joined the army. I went to Iraq, you know. I've always considered myself a pretty, you know, tough, resilient kind of guy. And I watch this show, and sometimes, you know, people just quitting for no reason, like, the doctors didn't force them off, they didn't get hurt, they didn't get sick, they just basically quit, you know, and that frustrates me, you know, just my competitive nature. I'm just like, come on, man, how can you quit? But then with age, I've also gained some self-awareness, and I'm like, well, it's really easy for me to talk all this shit from, you know, the comfort of my couch. Would I really survive out there? And definitely now I wouldn't, because I'm old and I never developed survival skills. So it makes me really think, like, I'd really like to know, you know, I'd like to test myself in that way, but I'm too old just in general, you know, because you get a lot less gritty and you get a lot less physically strong, obviously, yada, 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 as you get old. But also, it's that I missed the opportunity to gain experience in that field. Like, if I was 20 right now, I could say, yeah, I want to do that. I'm gonna spend the next couple years learning about that, and you know, obviously the odds of getting on Alone are, you know, close to zero. But put myself in some kind of situation like that where I could test my mettle, you know. But basically, I've missed the opportunity to do that, which is a bummer. But I love the show. I mean, it's just anything where you can put yourself in a situation where you've transcended the day-to-day, you know, you've put yourself in a challenging situation that cannot be replicated in day-to-day life, that really tests your physical or psychological strength or endurance, is fantastic. I mean, those people that get to go on that show are so fortunate just for the experience. Of course, the winner gets $500,000, which I think it should be more than that. I mean, I'm not saying $500,000 isn't a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. You know what I mean? It's not actually a life-changing amount. You know, these people talk about it, and it's not a life-changing amount. But you know, it's kind of gross to talk about personal finances, I know, but basically I just tell you from experience that $500,000 in itself is not a life-changing event unless you turn that into some sort of an income stream that can be life-changing. We just don't, the value of money in today's world, $500,000 isn't actually that much. 10 million, that's probably still life-changing. 500,000, I mean, I guess it depends on what you consider life-changing, Like, yeah, it's life-changing if you can't afford a house. You can't afford a down payment on a house and you can't get a loan and stuff. And $500,000 would allow you to buy a house in cash in a lot of places. So in that sense, it's life-changing because you went from not having a house to having a house. But when I think of life-changing, I think of like, this is going to actually change my lifestyle. Like I'm going to be able to not work anymore. Or I'm suddenly going to be able to go on like high-end vacations or something, Like I just have my own definition of life-changing, and I don't feel like 500,000 meets that criteria. But everything's relative. I mean, I think the biggest life change you can make is to accept Jesus Christ as your personal savior. So I don't think any amount of money is really life-changing. But given the definitions that we have in modern society, I just don't think 500,000's enough for that show. I think that the winner should get it. I mean, come on, at least give him $1 million, for crying out loud. Just make it around $1 million. I mean, I'm not, like I said, I'm not even sure $1 million in today's money is necessarily life-changing. That could be life-changing. If you use that money to start a business or you invest it very well, then it could potentially be life-changing. But it's not necessarily just in itself life-changing. But anyway, okay, I belabored that. What else is going on in the world? The Venezuela thing, I mean, people just showing their true colors. Like, TDS is just unreal. Like, I don't even care what your politics are. For you to take the side of Maduro, I mean, you're basically telling an entire country that they should be enslaved because either you don't like Donald Trump or you cosplay communism when you don't even know what communism is or what the real consequences of communism are. You're just, like basically a fake communist. And so you're going to tell the people of Venezuela that they should be enslaved by this communist and it's a bad thing that they were freed. I mean, it's just silly sometimes, It's just sometimes I just can't even talk about certain stuff in politics. I'm just like above it, At least I'd like to hope I am. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I mean, same thing with Iran. I mean, basically, the entire media ecosystem of the United States is treating this Iran thing in a completely different way just for Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump gets his own treatment when he's president. If this was any other president, the media would be all about how great it is that the Iranian people are going for their independence. But because Donald Trump is championing freedom in Iran, and that doesn't meet with their narrative, because according to their narrative, Donald Trump's evil and he's a fascist and he's against freedom. So they basically just have to pretend that this whole thing isn't happening. They're just going, nah, we don't hear it. This just didn't. So they just don't report on it, basically, or they report on it very minimally. And it's all like the naysaying. Like if it was any other president, it'd be like, yeah, these people should be free. I hope it works. But instead, it's all about like, well, are we gonna cause chaos? Are we just making it worse for them? It's like every possible negative angle you can find to something that would just be an unequivocal good, And they know that, and that's the way they would report under any other circumstances. So it's all just silly bullshit right now in the world. It's all just stupid. Greenland. Made a couple of shorts about Greenland. I just think the Europeans are childish about this thing. I mean, they're just showing their anti-Americanism. I just think it's an issue that should be able to be worked out. Like the West, if they truly, were our friend and our ally, then they would understand that we as an alliance, we as Western civilization, we need to defend Greenland, and it's the U.S. that's going to have to do it. And the U.S. is the only one that's going to be able to exploit the resources and stuff. But they're just falling back on like crazy like nationalism stuff. Like, you know, we don't like the big bad Americans, and we like Denmark because they're European, and so we're gonna make this a big thing. We're gonna actually approach this from a hostile standpoint, which is just absolutely nuts. So yeah, the Europeans, I mean, if they want to blow up the alliance with us, which is just totally self-destructive. I mean, they really should be trying to work with us on this. I mean, their reaction is just emotional, and it kind of just is the culmination of all the anti-American propaganda they've been feeding to themselves over the course of time, because they really needed to convince their people that, you know, our society was bad and defective, and they were superior because they had more social programs. But the only reason why they could have more social programs, even though they were poorer than us, is because we were paying for their entire defense. We were implementing their foreign policy for them. And so all the while they were telling their people all kinds of crazy stuff about us. Like, they were trying to perpetuate this old belief of the old world that Europe is superior and more sophisticated, and where, you know, all trailer park trash and poor, even though if you just look at statistics, Americans are much richer than Europeans. So I'm not sure where they get it from. That they try to present that like rural Mississippi is the whole U.S. You know? And it's just ridiculous anti-American stuff from people that are supposed to be our friends. You know, they never were our friends. And we're seeing that now. I mean, if they were our friends, they'd be working with us on this Greenland thing. So I don't know. Hopefully cooler heads prevail and we just work it out. We work out whatever the transition needs to be so that we can take control of Greenland, because, you know, we need to do that. And the other thing is, they've so propagandized the Greenlanders that the Greenlanders want what's worse for them. They want to continue to just stagnate under a piss poor country of 6 million people that can't do anything to develop the land or anything. Whereas if they were part of America, they would instantly gain so much benefit. They would become American citizens. They could move to the continental U.S. They could get out of the freaking frozen tundra. Or if they wanted to stay, they could, like, there's so much economic dynamism could be brought there. It would be an unalloyed good for the Greenlanders. But they've been totally brainwashed into this stuff, this rural Mississippi stuff, and how horrible the Americans are, and how horrible it would be to be an American, you know? And it's just a bunch of crap that we need to fix. I keep blocking this with my hand. I keep forgetting that's where the camera is. Yeah. Greenland thing's stupid too. Patriots, I think we're going to win against Houston. I wouldn't be shocked if Houston won. I mean, that defense is scary. I do think we can overcome it, because I just think we're a better overall team and we're at home. So even though that defense will stifle us, our defense will actually stifle their offense worse. Because yes, their defense is better than our defense, but our offense is much better than their offense. And so I think when you balance it out, when you take into account coaching and you take into account home field advantage, I think the Patriots will win. And I really hope that Buffalo wins, because I can't stand that fan base, so I definitely want to knock them out of the playoffs. I want to be the team that denies them that Super Bowl trip that they've you know, that they haven't been able to achieve up until now. Only thing I worry about, though, is the officiating in that game, if it happens. I mean, the desire to have Josh Allen make his first Super Bowl by the powers that be is going to be so strong. I really worry about that. So maybe just because of that, we're better off playing Denver. I don't know. But I don't want to go to Denver either, so that's another thing. What else? But yeah, the alone thing, but also I went on a vacation. Like, my wife came up with this idea, and it was great, We went on, these people have a bunch of land, you know, whatever it is, 100 acres or something, and they've put a bunch of tree houses up there. So you basically go there and like, it's camping, like you got a campfire and stuff, but you're sleeping in a real sort of house. It's like basically like a tiny home type thing. And I just loved it. Like we drove ATVs around their land, and they had like archery, and they had scavenger hunt. I mean, it was fantastic. And both me and my wife are like, this is what we want, you know. We want land. Now, we're stuck in the same situation that a lot of people are. We kind of like to get out of our house, but our house has like a 2% interest rate, which we're never going to get again. So giving that up is just, you know, we're basically not going to do it. So we're looking at having like a piece of land that is just a second property that doesn't have a full house on it, because there's no point in paying for a full house because we're stuck in our house anyway. We're only going to be able to go there like on the weekends and stuff. So we're basically trying to look for something like what we had on that vacation, like a little tiny home on it, and our kids can just like, you know, ride ATVs around and shit. It'd be really cool. Anything else going on? I think that's it. I'm gonna grab myself a coffee here. I'm gonna try 7 Brew. See what kind of latte I can get from 7 Brew. I'm sure it's not gonna be anything great, but I figured I'd try it because I usually get Starbucks, and there's one other place I get to. Haven't really done 7 Brew much, so I'm curious about why it does so well. Because I was actually looking at maybe buying commercial property a little while back, and I don't have the money to buy like something big, because I don't have partners or anything. It's just me. And you know, one of the things that was in my price range was like a 7 Brew, so I was looking at that. But so I'm gonna check it out, see what the big deal is about it. And that's about it, folks. Thanks for checking in on me. You know, if you have any questions or you just want to spark up a conversation, if you agreed with anything I said here, or you just completely disagreed or whatever, you know, don't be shy commenting. I know this video will only get a couple of views, but if somebody comments and we can actually have a nice conversation or something, it'll still be worth it, even though, you know, we didn't get many views. So yeah, see ya.